How's the mentality this year different going into the offseason than the last 2 years?
I mean, obviously we know we have something, very important at play right at the beginning of the year because we're coming back into CONCACAF quarterfinal play. So we know that begins before the regular season begins. So it's a little more urgency in terms of coming in fit into preseason. As I told the guys, normally you look to be about 75 minutes fit going into your first regular season MLS game. Everybody's sort of at the same stage. But now going into a CONCACAF game, you're playing against teams that are playing rhythm that are 90 minutes fit. So we have to be 90 minutes fit. So that means better preparation in the off season and a little alteration as to how we go through our training regimen in preseason.
Compared maybe to the past couple of off seasons, how different a club do you think you might bring in next year?
Well, there's always going to be changes, I mean, it's like I told the guys, you look around, it's never the same group from one year to the other. You're always going to make some changes. That's just the nature of the job and the nature of professional sports. But I think, we're at a stage right now where it's, we need to add a piece here or there. Obviously missing guys like Steve Zakawani and O'Brien White and Rosales and at key moments for us, it certainly hurt our team, and having those guys back will help our team. But now we need to, take that final jump. We had, based on the regular season, we were the second best team. We want to be the first team now. We want to go after the Supporter Shield. We want to go after MLS Cup next year, and so we just got to take that little jump forward from here.
Where does this team need help? Where do you need to improve?
I think it's, consistency is certainly something that you're looking at. I mean, I think the playoff series, the first game, you compare the first game and the second game, and where we really, tactically, we really didn't do anything much different, but the game certainly played much differently. And that was a little bit of intensity, a little bit of determination from the players, so you can view that as consistency. But I think our ability to play out of the back, I think, has to get better. I think so much of the modern game deals with the balls being at the feet of your outside backs. I think the outside backs' contributions to your offensive aspect of your team becomes important. I think we found the back of the net, very well this year. I think we got to get more shutouts. There's got to be an improved, you can call it toughness, hardness, just maturity still in us in those difficult moments and difficult games, and that little bit of leadership. So, so I think those are aspects certainly there, and and consistency of play in the middle of midfield as well, in terms of just being the engine room, in terms of maybe being a little more creative at times when a team, drops back and just makes it difficult to play.
What do you think of the LA-Houston matchup?
I mean, obviously, it's great to be in the East for Houston. They switch conferences and they're back in the playoffs. And obviously if they had been in the West, their fortunes would have been different because they would have been a wild card, and, a lot of things would have been different for them. But, it's a good matchup. Houston's, played very well at the end of the season. Dominic's done a good job of putting that team back together again, after they didn't make the playoffs last year. But over the last 3 years, LA has been the most consistent team in the league, and you could see by Beckham's attitude of chasing a guy 50 yards and sprinting down the middle of the field, that here's a guy who really wants this thing. And, I think it's a good matchup in that you have a team that's been playing well at the end of the year, and you're playing against a team that's been the most consistent team in the league for the last 3 years, so it's a good matchup.
As you understand it, if LA wins, would you guys advance directly to the CONCACAF group stage? Because they would double up as Supporter Shield and MLS Cup winner.
Wow, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Can you put that down in a memo and send that to the league? Maybe the league hasn't thought about that yet. I haven't thought about it yet. So, yeah, that would be great. I wouldn't mind that at all. And then whoever else they put in there, I know it opens up the door for Salt Lake. Because if LA wins it, then Salt Lake has a chance to get in as the next team with the highest point total. If we get however they do it. If LA gets in, and then the team that lost in MLS in the Cup final gets in, and then how the other two are. So I don't know. I don't know if the league's thought that through, but yeah, it'd be good not to have to do the play-ins, because we already, we're looking at a possibility of 6 games at the beginning of the year that are in addition to what we played this year, and then looking at all the other games that we played this year as well. So again, we got to be a deep team.
You don't replace a presence like Casey Keller, but what's the process of getting a new goalie there?
Well, looking and searching and so forth. I mean, and it's a process that we've begun long ago. I know I went on vacation with my wife last year, and in December, and I was already talking to people about this situation. So it's something that we've been working on for a year. We know we gotta. We don't replace Casey. What we're doing is we're looking for another goalkeeper. And we're looking for the best goalkeeper that we can find that makes it work within our cap, within the league rules, and gives us the most quality we can have.
Is it a shadow that could be too big or a hole too big to replace, or kind of a shadow that looms too large alongside?
No, I really think that depends on the next guy, and what his attitude is and so forth. I mean, I think if you hand Casey's job to a rookie, or you hand it to a very young goalkeeper, then I think it becomes a big shadow, But I think if we're looking more for a veteran guy, so I think that'll help in terms of that transition. And like I said, our objective is not to replace Casey. You don't want the guy thinking about, I hope I can do this as well as Casey. It's just a matter of going out there and being yourself and establishing yourself.
You got a handful of guys that kind of exceeded expectations, maybe going into the year. Does that inspire some of the guys that are maybe deeper on the roster this year to follow that path and use the off season and training camp to improve themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think every time, as a player, you always look upon it and you always say, well, coach has his favorites. He's going to play this guy or he's going to play that guy. And what's good when you see guys emerge like a Lamar Nagel, is probably the most prominent example on our team. When you see him emerge and you see, Ziggy's playing him, it's like, it doesn't have anything to do with who's been with the team or your longevity or who you think I like or not like. My only objective is to put the best players on the field. And so when the guys see that, all the other guys realize, hey, if I do my job, I can get out on the field as well. So I think it's always great when you can produce from within and when you can have guys grow and add playing time to their resume. And, that's something we've been able to do over the years here.
Speaking of Lamar, kind of creates a situation next year where it looks like on paper at least you have a very crowded midfield. Is that a good problem to have? How do you kind of plan to, do you think it's going to sort itself out in the offseason?
Well, quality players, it's always good to have quality players. So the more quality players we have, the better it is. We also need guys ready to go on March 7th. And so, we have to be aware of that factor. When is Steve Zakawani going to be in full form? When is O'Brien White going to be in full form? Obviously, our expectations are that they're going to make full recoveries and get back to where they were. But sometimes that doesn't happen, so we have to be prepared for that as well. So it could be crowded. That's something we're talking about now. We need to. We also want to improve ourselves, in some areas, so that might require some changes also. And sometimes if you have to make trades or you have to make changes, sometimes you give away from an area that you have some depth in order to acquire something in an area that you don't have enough depth in, and that's where we're at a little bit.
You foresee moving guys from the outside to inside or anything like that, or is that just all kind of stuff that just needs to work itself out?
Guys from outside could end up going forward. Guys from inside could go backward. Playing. I mean, we gotta look at how we can, like I said, how we can make our team just a little bit better to get over the hump and get ourselves a supporter shield and an MLS Cup. That's our goal for next year. And if we can take the Champions League along the way, we're certainly not going to turn that down. So it could, it's something that we're going to discuss. That's what we're going to be doing as a coaching staff, as a technical group, as an ownership group, looking at what are the options available to us that can take us that next step.
Hindsight always makes things a little clearer, but would you have changed anything regarding Mauro Rizal's playing time towards the end of the season, seeing how things played out?
No, because, I mean, that could have happened in the first minute of the Salt Lake game, and I think it would have been an even harder thing to overcome at that point. I think we did the right thing by trying to stay in rhythm. You can't completely explain why we came out so flat at times against Salt Lake. I know it's something I kick myself over and say, is there something else I could have done? Could we have done something different? That was the only bad tackle in that game. It happened to get Morrow. It was unfortunate. So, yeah, in hindsight, you say, okay, let's not play him, and he'd be ready to play the next game. But you never know. Then maybe he's rusty or he's off. So you just got to trust your instincts there, and you got to go with it. And every time, as a coach, you learn from those situations. Maybe the next time you do it a little bit differently, or not. If you do it wrong too often, you get fired.
Do you look back at that Salt Lake game? I mean, do you kind of see this was a team that could have won MLS Cup but for a bad game, or do you feel maybe this team wasn't quite ready for that?
Well, I mean, I think when I look at the two-game series with Salt Lake, for sure they dominated us in Salt Lake. I don't think they dominated us to the extent that we dominated them here in Seattle. So from that standpoint, I was very pleased with our effort in Game 2 and the resolve that we showed in that game. But on the same token, you sit there and you say, hey, we think we could have done better there. We think we could have advanced. We think we could have gotten ourselves into the game against the Galaxy last night. But obviously that's something that we didn't do. And so now, we look back on it and say, okay, we came up short, and we got to make sure we don't come up short. I don't know if I answered your question completely, did I? Yeah. Okay.
Do you know if any off-season surgeries are planned yet, or have you guys kind of checked out?
No, I mean, from that standpoint, we're actually pretty good. I mean, the last couple of years we've had quite a few guys have to do off-season surgeries. I mean, last year I know it was Boss and Park and Jaquan and Noonan and so forth. So, this is very good. Even a guy like Evans, who with his ankle, but last off-season we had to shut everything down because of the patella tendon injury. So I think one of the things we're looking forward to is we should come into preseason with guys who last year weren't able to do a lot, being able to do more. And even Steve Zakawani and O'Brien White are getting close to that stage where hopefully by mid-December, for sure by early January, they're able to really, pull the load and be ready when we start.
What's Alvaro's status, and do you know if he's still going to he's being called up or not?
I don't know in terms of the call-up, if anything's changed. I mean, he's the one who really has to make the determination with his hamstring, how bad it is. I know the doctors felt it was a strain, but wasn't of the severe variety, but enough to keep him out for that particular game. So it really depends how his recovery's been going.
Is there much to root for in the CONCACAF draw tomorrow, or the four champions about the same for you?
It's all about the same. What we're going to root for is that whoever we draw, we're going to beat. That's what we're rooting for.
Do you know if anyone will be training overseas, like Alonso and Zakawani did?
We might, we might have that opportunity for a few of the guys. That's something that we're going to discuss. We've got individual player meetings coming up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that's something we'll talk about in those meetings.
Is the plan for Miguel Montano to still be part of preseason next year?
That's something that's a little gray right now. Obviously he was at Montreal, and we want him to be able to return to a situation that makes the most sense for him. So whether it's here or whether it's at Montreal or whether it's back in South America, that's something we're discussing right now as well.
Sort of in general, just looking back on the season, they set the attendance record this year in MLS. Kansas City certainly sort of resurrected its franchise and so forth. Just sort of where's the state of the league at the end of the season?
I think the league's good. I think the state of the league's good. I think the quality of play is up as well. There's still, you know, certain teams have a particular way of playing, like Houston. You know, it's maybe a little bit different. But I think overall the quality of play is up. In fact, I talked to somebody who's because it regards to a national team coach, and just saying how, well, you know, guys playing in the U.S. don't get as much respect as you know, the guy playing in Argentina or the guy playing in Spain. He goes, but it's changing. It's definitely changing, and I think that's a good thing for our league. I think our league's starting to get more respect from other countries, you know, hopefully, and from national team coaches, realizing, you know, even Ireland and Trapattoni realizing that Keane's form isn't suffering because he's playing in LA. You know, I think those are all things important for the for our league's respect. But I think the league's in good position right now. Montreal comes in next year. We wish it would be 20 right away, so we wouldn't have an uneven schedule. But I think this was a good year for the league overall, and a good stride forward for the sport of soccer. I think every city you go into now, there's great supporter bases. Even if there's not maybe a packed house, you know, there's a core group of fans that are really in tune into it, and everybody overall is doing a little bit better at the gate, with a few exceptions. And as a league, you know, I'm not Don Garber, so he's the one who can address the State of the Union, which he will do, I'm sure, in 2 weeks. But I think from what I see in my years in the league, I think we're in a good place.
What's the off-season hold for you? What do you got, any plans?
Wow.
Outside of this building, I guess.
What's the off-season hold for me? I'm going to try and see my house in Manhattan Beach for a few days, make sure it's still there and it's still on its foundation. But it's you know, it's going to be work. You know, I mean, it's going to be some time off, a little bit of relaxation, get away. Just like the players, I think you need a little bit of time to basically recover or resuscitate. Maybe it's a better word sometimes, because you feel like you're sinking. But no, I mean, for me, 2012 started Thursday morning. So we're already working on that. All our meetings, everything's directed on that. We're already looking at player options and situations for us, and there's obviously always a lot of little things to do. So you know, it'll be some relaxation, but it'll be mixed in with work.
Any ideas of who's going to be the next captain?
Who's going to be the next captain? Well, that we'll figure out next year. You know, I always think that sort of shakes itself out by themselves. And in all my years, I very rarely have the team vote on it, because I don't want it to turn into a political campaign, and then they would elect the wrong candidate or something, which happens often in politics, doesn't it, once in a while? So you know, we'll see how it shakes out next year.
Words are powerful. I'm Sigi Schmid. Hearing the words retard and retarded makes people with intellectual disabilities and those who love them feel like less valued members of humanity. That's why we're asking you to help spread the word to end the R word. Stop by the Special Olympics booth in Soccer Celebration to pledge your support. It's time to respect and value people with intellectual disabilities. Please join us in eliminating this offensive language in everyday speech. Thank you.